Very good evening and welcome to your primetime news bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Nicola De Zoiza. We start off with the headlines.
President assures he will leave no room for another dictatorship or authoritarianism. Striking postal workers on the brink of losing June salaries. Government Medical Officers Association agree with Saitam Solutions. Dinesh Chandimal appeals against ICC's ball tampering suspension.
The 81st village constructed under the Nava Uda Gammana program was declared open today.
The village named Veherapura Gammana consists of 32 houses and has been constructed in the Kotavehera area in Nikavarattiya in the Kurunegala district. The village was declared open under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena upon an invitation extended by Minister of Housing and Construction Sajith Premadasa. Built at a cost of 41.3 million rupees, the village consists of infrastructure facilities including clean drinking water and electricity. Title deeds and concessionary housing loans to several beneficiary families were presented at the occasion.
I saw yesterday several Theros have said through the media that the country needs an authoritarian ruler. Venerable Thero, I as a Buddhist respect the Mahasangha. Forgive me, but if you are preaching that this country needs a dictator, that's one place we have gone wrong. The people of this country to a certain extent have seen the shape of a dictator before the 8th of January 2015. Those have been forgotten now. So they are asking for more stern rulers. Do not forget, the people of this country made a change on the 8th of January 2015 because the rule was taking on a shape of a dictatorship. That freedom was strengthened, democracy was strengthened, human rights were strengthened, and so was media freedom. Now they themselves are using this freedom as a weapon to attack us. Those who are calling for dictatorships, authoritarianism and military rule are saying these things without an understanding of those experiences. There are educated and intelligent people in this country, a younger generation which respects the country's democracy. There are politicians who protect the country's democracy. There are many politicians who protect the country's democracy. So I will never leave room for a dictatorship, authoritarianism, nor military rule in this country. Do not get ready to fall into a massive ditch.
What is Donald Trump doing now? He is thinking about his country and its people first, the international community second. This is exactly what the Good Governance government is doing as well. His Excellency the President and Honorable Prime Minister are doing the same thing. First come the motherland, the international community is secondary. This is our journey. We have no cardboard patriotism. We do not have the kind of patriotism which builds Ranaviru Gammanas for soldiers and charges them money for them. Our patriotism lies in our hearts.
Fugitive former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran, the chief suspect in the case filed over the bond scam, remains missing. However, the people of the country have not forgotten about the suspects and others involved in what is known as the largest financial scam to take place in the country. The beneficial owner of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Arjun Aloysius, and its CEO, Kasun Palisena, were further remanded until the 5th of July.
The suspects, Arjun Aloysius and Kasun Palisena, were both produced before Fort Magistrate Lanka Jayaratna this afternoon. The suspects were arrested in February by the Criminal Investigations Department following investigations carried out over a complaint filed by the present Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy over the bond scam. Today, court issued notice on Jeffrey Aloysius, the father of Arjun Aloysius, to show cause for PTL's failure to provide a declaration with regard to the direct and indirect assets of PTL through an auditor. It was revealed in court W.M. Mendes and Company had provided a report of all payments made to third parties and organizations and on its movable and immovable assets to the CID, which in turn will be handed over to the Central Bank Governor for a forensic audit. Former PTL employee Sachit Devatantri and present employee Upeka Madhushankar were ordered to assist the CID in accessing the PTL data server located at its office premises.
It has now come to light Sri Lankan Airlines never knew of Phoenix Rising Ventures until they put forward a bid to enter the airline's duty-free program. Newsfirst's Zulfiq Farzan, who is closely monitoring the proceedings at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, filed the following report.
Marlon Pereira, a former employee at Phoenix Duty Free Services Lanka Limited, testifying before the Commission this morning, said before the company was awarded the contract, Sri Lankan Airlines had an exclusive supplier for all duty-free products. Romeo Ferdinand, the in-flight services manager at Sri Lankan Airlines, who also testified today, said they never heard of Phoenix Rising Ventures until they came forward to bid to supply perfumes and cosmetics for the duty-free program. In 2012, Phoenix Duty-Free Services Lanka Limited was given the contract to supply perfumes and cosmetics, but Marlon Pereira believed the contract was awarded without following a proper tender procedure. The second witness also testified to this matter in the affirmative, noting the contract was to be given for 6 months and then reviewed in the 4th month to ascertain if the contract can be given for 3 years. Marlon Pereira went on to testify Phoenix Duty-Free Services Lanka Limited was then awarded the contract to provide liquor for in-flight consumption, and that too was done without following proper tender procedure. Finally, the contract for the entire duty-free program had been awarded to Phoenix Duty-Free Services Lanka Limited for 2012 to 2017 without following proper tender process. The witness, Marlon Pereira, believed the deal for the contract was brokered by former Sri Lankan Airlines Board Director Sanat Ukwatta by negotiating it with the then chairman Nishantha Wickramasinghe and CEO Kapila Chandrasena. With regard to the contract, Managing Director of Phoenix Duty-Free Services Lanka Limited, Raju Chandram, had signed the document as a witness, while an individual known as Rumesh Dilan Veerasinghe, the CEO of Phoenix Duty-Free Services, had also signed the document. It must be highlighted, Rumesh Dilan Veerasinghe, the CEO of Phoenix Duty-Free Services, was named in the Offshore Leaks database released by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists several years ago. Marlon Pereira testified when he had questioned Raju Chandram over certain losses made by Phoenix Duty-Free Services Lanka Limited in its services. The latter had stated, quote, "We must make losses here to make profits elsewhere," unquote. He also testified that Phoenix Duty-Free Services Lanka Limited had breached the contract by allegedly engaging in trading, an act which is not acceptable internationally and can have the airline sued by its suppliers.
Minister of Ports and Shipping Mahinda Samarasinghe says the government was successful in raising its shareholding with regard to the operations at the Hambantota port to 30%. The announcement was made at a media briefing in Colombo today.
According to the initial agreement, the Hambantota port was to be leased for 99 years, with the Sri Lanka government having 20% of the shares. The remaining 80% stake in the port was to be given to the state-controlled China Merchants Port Holdings.
We managed to have successful talks with China Merchants Port Holdings to increase our stake to 30.6% with cabinet approval. The 80% stake of China Merchants Port Holdings reduced by another 10.6%. We were also successful in reaching an agreement with China Merchants Port Holdings to bring in the remaining direct investment of $146 million within a month.
Yesterday, the government received the third tranche of the proceeds from China Merchant Port Holdings Company Limited of $584 million.
After receiving the tranche of $584 million, it goes to the Treasury, and that means our foreign reserves increase. The central bank will be able to control the rupee without allowing it to depreciate. The central bank and the Treasury hope to recover the public debt based on the government's economic policy. In addition to the $146 million, CM Port has proposed to enter the third phase in the next 3 years.
What would you say the estimated investment value approximately could be?
I'm very confident it would be more than 100 million at the moment.
සමහරු කිව්ව පත්තරවල මේ දූපත විනෝදාංශ නැත්.
It was reported in the papers there was a request to establish a casino and use the island for entertainment. There was no such discussion with CM Ports. An agreement was reached to enter a clause which states the island will only be used for marine-related operations. The agreement further notes the presence of the Navy inside the Hambantota port. They will not leave during the 99-year period. As certain vessels of the Navy cannot reach the jetty, as a government policy, the Navy and the Sri Lanka Ports Authority have started to search for a location to construct a new jetty.
සමග නාවික හමුදාව හොයාගෙන යනවා ඒ ගැඹුරුභාවයේ තියෙන ප්‍රදේශයක් අලුත් ජෙටියක් පවා ඉදි කරන්න.
Postmaster General Rohan Aberatna announced today that the salaries for the month of June will only be paid to postal staff who report for duty. Issuing a release, Aberatna said the salaries of postal workers who continue to carry out the strike action will only be calculated until the 11th of June. Aberatna urged those postal workers to call off their strike action and report for duty without further delay. The crisis was also discussed in Parliament today.
It has been 10 days since 26,000 postal workers launched their strike action. The Postmaster General clearly told media the proposal containing the solutions were presented to the Cabinet Minister and that the strike would end if Cabinet gave its approval. But there doesn't seem to be an end to this. We are paying for the sins of the previous administration. This situation has arisen due to a circular issued in 2006. We presented proposals to resolve this issue to Cabinet. The government has given positive responses to the two main issues of these trade unions. They are a new services constitution and the removal of grade 3 officials. So this trade union action is pointless. I believe there is an ulterior motive behind the strike. This could even be an attempt to topple the government. I don't think the 26,000 workers in the postal departments can topple the government. If it is possible and the government is that weak, we need to consider it separately. But if the minister really wants to protect the government from collapsing, all he has to do is one simple thing. What they are saying is oral agreements are useless. Instead, give them a believable agreement. So give the workers a written assurance. By not doing this, it makes us wonder if it is the minister who is conspiring to topple the government.
Meanwhile, as talks held with Minister MHA Halim this afternoon were unsuccessful, the postal trade unions have decided to continue their strike action.
Sri Lanka's new Foreign Exchange Act number 12 of 2017 came into effect on the 20th of November last year. In December the same year, the Financial Action Task Force classified Sri Lanka as a high-risk jurisdiction for laundering of proceeds of crime and terrorist finances. The Foreign Exchange Bill was presented by the Prime Minister on National Policies and Economic Affairs on 7th April 2017 and was passed in Parliament on the 25th of July. However, experts say the Act does not appear to be any formal regulatory or investigative process established for effective tackling, profiling potential suspects and investigation based on a developed evidence matrix of potential risks of organized money laundering. Speaking to Newsfirst on an earlier occasion, the former chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Chandra Jayaratne, said most of the penalties stipulated in the Act are subject to the minister's concurrence. As per the new Act, a person who brings into the country undeclared money worth $1 million will only have to pay 1% as a fee. If the value of the undeclared amount is over $1 million, that 1% too will be waived according to the new Act. It is essential the government looks into the longer-term risks to the national economy as a result of this Act. Legal experts opine that there are politicians as well as other businessmen who have openly admitted in court to having foreign exchange outside the country. It would appear that members of the opposition are fast asleep. International monitoring of financial affairs have picked up on the activities going on in Sri Lanka, and the spotlight is now on monitoring the country's financial transactions to find out attempts of money laundering and terrorism financing. This is exactly what would happen when people who are dishonest are placed in power. As the idiom goes, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
The joint opposition convened a media briefing today to comment on the economy.
The government, following the instructions of the International Monetary Fund, had allowed the economy to idle, and now it has collapsed in a very serious manner. The depreciation of the rupee has resulted in the debt burden increasing by another 180 billion rupees. The Rajapaksa government, in its initial period, only obtained 725 billion rupees. However, the debt taken by this government from April to May is greater than the total taken during that time. The debt increased to $826 billion, with $90 billion taken as a loan and another 115 billion secured via the issuance of bonds. The government's revenue by 2014 was 1 trillion rupees. The people have been taxed heavily to increase that to 2 trillion rupees. It means 100% tax increase had taken place. Over $820 billion has been taken as debt. Despite taking so much of debt, We have not even seen a grain of sand being placed on a single road. But there are placards stating this school is the best school. When they say Gamperaliya, we must assume the village is upside down. Everything is restricted to boards alone.
The current economic situation in the country, including its debt burden and income, was discussed in Parliament today. The discussion arose during the debate to approve several orders, including the reduction in the annual licence fee of bottling toddy.
We earn only 18% in direct income tax. This is quite an unfortunate and unacceptable situation, which is why we have to reduce indirect taxes to increase our direct taxes. There were around 400,000 tax files, but with the introduction of the new Inland Revenue Act, 69,000 new tax files have been opened at the Inland Revenue Department since the 1st of April to day before yesterday. We are paying a debt of 1.9 trillion rupees this year. It goes without saying that 83% of this debt amount are loans obtained before 2015. In 2019-20, we have to pay over 4 trillion rupees. Those are the Rajapaksa's loans. But without saying this isn't our loans and evading it, we are paying them as well and continuing to grant concessions to the people. If you look at the previous budget, you haven't been able to achieve the target you hoped for. Reaching targets is my responsibility and I will take care of it, do not worry. But targets aren't what is important to me, unlike you who have black money and charge massive taxes. What is important to me at this point of time is giving the people concessions. Our government is more sensitive towards the people than your government. You taxed everyone. If a separate debate is given, I will give you a list of those who were exempted of taxes. I do not think of targeting them. The entire country ultimately was buried in a mound of debt. You speak today like recently reborn babies. So wouldn't this make me angry?
ඒ කාලේ මේ ටාගට් ගැන හිතුවේ නෑ මත මුළු රටම මහා ණය කන්දකට යට වෙලා තිබුණා අද නිකන් කටයුතු කරන්නේ මේ ඊයේ පෙරේද මැරිලා ඉපදුන බබ්බෝ වගේ අද අපි වැඩේ අන්න ඕකයි මට ටිකක් තරහ යන්නේ නේද මේගොල්ලන් දැන් කතා කරන්නේ මේ මහා
They are talking like saints today, like a group who rule this country in an exemplary manner. They are the ones who ruin this country. We will not let that happen again. Today the prices of vegetables and 250 grams of rice are beyond 60 to 70 rupees. It is easy for Parliament to get together and impose a tax. At a time when the cost of living has risen, the dollar is at 161 rupees. The country's total debt has risen this year because of the depreciation of the rupee in 2018. The central bank says foreign debt alone is 211 billion rupees. As the rupee depreciates further, prices of imported goods increase as well, making the people even more bankrupt than they already are. What happens then? The cost of 250 grams of vegetables is 60 rupees. You say crime has increased. What else can the people do? Of course they will steal. People's stomachs wouldn't get full just because Parliament convened.
The newly appointed Deputy Minister of Industry and Commerce, Buddhika Pathirana, assumed his ministerial duties today.
The Deputy Minister assumed duties after religious observances. Subject Minister Rishad Bathiuddin and State Minister Champika Premadasa were also present at the occasion.
I am happy that a talented and energetic Deputy Minister assumed duties at our ministry today. According to my knowledge, there is no other parliamentarian in the history of our parliament who has raised the most number of questions such as Honourable Buddhika Pathirana. I believe that Honourable Pathirana will pursue his duty on behalf of the citizens of our country. I am hoping to work in 34 institutions alongside with my subject minister, and I believe that I will be able to handle more issues rather than a state minister due to the limitations in state ministerial portfolios. But here I have the flexibility to work in all 34 bodies. Generally, when new ministers and deputy ministers are sworn in, it is common that the social media would say another greedy demon has been appointed. The salary we get as public representatives and utilize for our facilities and staff are the money where every born and unborn child are being indebted to. I believe that I am not indebted to the people of our country for the salary I got during the past 8 years as a parliamentarian. Do not say good about myself, as there is nothing that can be learnt by praising. Point out the flaws and I would humbly accept it.
A meeting was convened today to apprise the media on the report of the Committee of Public Accounts.
51% of the ministries have not maintained a proper fixed asset register. 53% of the country's ministries, 46% of its departments and 60% of district secretaries have not maintained any special expenses ledger. 38% of provincial council departments have not maintained special expenses as well. Furthermore, 78% of provincial council funds, 30% of urban councils, 20% of municipal councils and 25% of Pradesh Sabhas have not maintained fixed asset registers. 57% of ministries were not able to respond to questions during the audit. 16% of ministries had not made provisions for special expenses. 47% of government departments have not made provisions for special expenses as well. An audit committee should be appointed for each quarter. However, in our country, 37% of the ministries have not maintained an audit committee for 2016. In the meantime, 5% of special expenses units, 7% of departments, 38% of provincial council ministries have not appointed audit and management committees. A report has to be made in 8 weeks to Parliament with recommendations. There was no requirement like this before. Our committee has the power to examine and review these recommendations.
පිළිබඳව නැවත අපිට සලකා බැලීමක් කරලා පසුවිපරමක් කරන්න අපිට පුළුවන්කමක් තිබෙනවා. අපි ඒක කරනවා.
ඉහළ පුටුවල වගකීම් දරන
Although we do not have the capacity to punish those high-ranking public officials who have willingly or unwillingly permitted the misuse of public funds, we do have the capacity to apprise and consult the Speaker of Parliament, the President and the Prime Minister on this matter. We are now considering if we could, through the Attorney General's Department, institute action against such officials and bring them to book.
ලක් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා අපි අපේ පැත්තෙන් සැලකිලි ලක් කරනවා.
If the audit bill could be presented to Parliament and passed, would it not be that much easier to apprehend those officials who rob public funds? Why is there such a lethargic approach to the 20th Amendment to the Constitution?
The Government Medical Officers Association has commended the bill which was passed yesterday to solve the Saitam issue.
The government has enforced the decision that we took regarding Saitam. We put forward these proposals in 2010, highlighting how medical education in Sri Lanka, university education in Sri Lanka and health must be taken seriously. Despite 8 years being passed, they are implementing those proposals one by one. If those proposals were enforced in 2010, the damage could have been minimized and a solution could have been reached. Several members of the GMOA, together with professionals, called on the Mahanayakas and Anunayakas of the Malwatu and Astkiri chapters of the Siam sect and briefed about the dangers posed by the Sri Lanka-Singapore Free Trade Agreement. It is clear certain things have been done without informing the clergy, the intellectuals or even the general public. At times we are only aware something has been done only after the decisions have been made and they have been enforced. This is a disappointing situation. The citizens of the country have a right to know about these things. They only think about themselves and they do not think about the needs of the country. They only listen to what they say, but they do not act. And there is no way of bringing the people out of this burden that is experienced at present.
The Sri Lankan leopard is a leopard subspecies native to Sri Lanka. Sadly, this morning, one leopard met an unfortunate incident when it roamed into the Ambalpuram area in Kilinochchi. Some viewers may find the following images disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, that's a wrap of your primetime news for tonight. Thank you for joining us. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Nicola De Zoiza.
And I'm Shane Silva. Take care and good night.
Good night.